Thank you for being here. And I will point out the post office is in the Constitution. I think it's important for everybody to realize what's in the Constitution, and also important for everybody to realize what's not in the Constitution and the federal government is forbidden to do. And it's important to bring that up as well. Thank you for proposals. I mean, I think it's a good thing to try to look what we can do to make the government more efficient. And I think when too many different agencies have things, you know, one hand not know what the other is doing, you result in spending too much money and having perverse effects. One of the things you want to do is you want to combine the nutrition assistance programs with other welfare programs. Could you explain the benefits of that?
So I think that the primary issue actually looks at the delivery and the service component.
Right.
So states administer both the temporary assistance for needy families as well as the SNAP and the WIC programs, essentially to largely the same group of people, and they tend to have one organization that does that administration, but when they deal with the federal government, they have to deal with confusing, overlapping, sometimes conflicting requirements that add to their overhead and basically reduce the amount of money of the whole pool that actually goes to the needy families.
That's good. You know, one of the things that I'm interested in, one of the reasons I ran for this job, is you add up the public benefits, all the different things, the earned income tax credit, the SNAP, the low-income housing, the TANF. You wind up with really big numbers that discourage people from working and discourage people from getting married as well. Do you think that by trying to put everything under one roof, we do a better job of seeing, quite frankly, how much is available out there if you don't try to work as hard as you can?
So I think that the key thing from this proposal was really, and taking a great view of some of the best in serving communities that are at risk. When you look at how charities are judged and measured, they're measured by how much of the actual benefit goes directly to the cause. And then, you know, the charities that have the best performance have the least amount of overhead. That's really where I think we should be judged.
You feel we're spending a lot of money on poverty, and a lot of that money is going to government employees who are administering the programs?
I absolutely think that we have excessive administrative overhead that would be better served actually bringing that money to the people that are targeted for it.
I'll give you a question, and you can think about this. It's a conversation I once had with a person high up in the administration who's not the president. Do you feel we would be better off just taking a block amount of money and giving it to the states and saying, here, you deal with the low-income housing, you deal with the nutrition, you deal with the educational requirements, and we're out of here altogether? Because when you look at the overall amount of money spent per person in poverty, it's just shockingly high. I think the average person would be happy to live off that. Now, of course, a lot of that is not trickling down to the people in poverty. It's going to the bureaucracy. But could you see the day come where the administration would just say, here's X amount of dollars per person in poverty in your state today, you deal with it?
So I haven't done the full analysis to be able to get to that conclusion. What I would say is that would be part of the dialogue that I think we should have. Certainly there are governors and state and local authorities who would welcome that. And I think, you know, as many members of this body have indicated, when we get to the implementation phase, we have to look at the costs and benefits. But I think it's certainly something we'd want to look at.
I'd encourage you to do that. And I came here with all sorts of ideas how to run these programs, but over time, I realized that Congress is incapable of doing what they should do in these programs. And maybe if you just said, we'll give the state of Wisconsin $20,000 a year for every person in poverty, we'd be ahead of the game and just clear the decks here in Washington. With regard to the merger of education and labor, is there a reason why we didn't include something in there a little bit more like commerce to kind of change the mentality and realize that our goal here is to help commerce and not get in its way? Is that something you'd ever think about adding to the mix?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Would you ever consider adding commerce or economic development, that type of thing in the mix, maybe to try to change the mentality in the departments of education and labor?
So I think it's a great question. What we wanted to do was get as clear as we could about core mission elements, and so I think the place we saw the greatest overlap had to do with workforce development and the alignment of how we actually prepare people for the workforce. So it didn't go as far as the actual commerce mission, but I think it's an interesting thought.
Thank you for coming over. We're a tough crowd.